The teachings of Rabbi Ephraim Sprecher, Dean of Students at Diaspora Yeshiva on Mount Zion, Jerusalem.
Parshat Vayeishev. Before we get to Vayeishev, please look in last week's Parsha. Bereshis Lamed Hey, Pasuk 19, 20, and 21. You gotta see it to believe it. Bereshis 35, Pasuk 19, 20, and 21. It's Vayishlach. Bereshis 35, verse 19. Are we all there?
Yep.
It says, Vatomas Rachel died, and she was buried in Ephrat Beit Lechem, right?
Right.
Paul, you have that? Bereshis 35, 19, right?
35, 19.
Right.
91.
And then Yaakov put up a matzeva. Verse 20, Yaakov put up a matzeva, right? David, you have that?
Wait.
It's a monument.
He put up a monument. This is the source for putting up a monument on a grave, because Yaakov showed us the way he put a monument on the grave. Why is that in the Chama? Why is that in the Chama to put a monument on the grave? Well, this is on the Chama. There's a pasuk in Parshas Hazinu, Hatzur. God calls himself a rock. I am a rock. So it's very comforting to put a rock. Yaakov taught us that our beloved is not 6 feet under. That's just his spacesuit. He's with the rock. So you're putting up a matzeva, a monument, a rock on top of a kever. That's on the Chama, that our beloved is not underground. That's just his bodysuit. He is with the rock. God in Deuteronomy 32 called himself the rock. Okay? Now look at verse 21. Verse 21, David, seems to be from left field. You want to read verse 21 in English?
Israel sojourned on, and he pitched his tent beyond Migdal Eder.
Thank you very much. 3,700 years ago, he buries his wife, right? Bilhah, and then he travels on, and he pitches his tent beyond Migdal Eder. Why should I care? Paul, the Torah is GPS. It's God's GPS, God's personal system for the year 2019. So what do we have to know? After he buried his beloved wife, he traveled on, and the name of the place. Why should I care? The Torah only tells you what I need to know for the year 2019.
What's the message?
What's the message? I'm glad you asked. Yaakov was brokenhearted. His beloved wife died. She was only 36 years old. So he was brokenhearted. He could have thrown in the towel. Vayeishev, but he kept moving on. Despite his heartache, the love of his life died at 36. He was broken, but he got over it. Vayeishev. What does Vayeishev mean? He moved on, he traveled on. And the name of the place was Migdal. What does Migdal mean? Migdal means a tower.
Tower.
The tower of faith. Yaakov taught us, after tragedy, you have to move on. You have to continue to grow. You have to become a Migdal. You have to become a tower of faith to inspire others that have to deal with tragedy. You can't let it break you. You've got to move on.
Right.
Beyond the pain and the suffering. Become a Migdal. Become a tower of faith for others. Inspire others in similar tragic situation, how to deal with tragedy and sorrow by moving on, by growing from tragedy, and become a Migdal, a tower of faith to inspire others. That's what the Torah is teaching us. And Yaakov continues to suffer. It's not over. In our Parsha, Bereshis 37:1, Parshas Vayeishev, Bereshis 37:1, Yaakov dwelt in the land of his fathers, in the land of Canaan. Now that seems to be superfluous. We know that his fathers lived in the land of Canaan. So why tell us Yaakov dwelt? David, you see the verse? Yaakov dwelt in the land where his fathers dwelt, in the land of Canaan.
Yeah.
It seems to be a little bit redundant. We knew that his fathers lived in the land of Canaan. So Daniel, why tell us the land of Canaan?
Oh, yeah.
What's the message? Canaan is a symbol of corruption, immorality, Rashi tells us Canaan was the most corrupt, immoral nation in the world. And that's where God put us. The question is why? So Rav Soloveitchik explains, you ever go to West 47th Street? Ever been there in Manhattan? Why are diamonds always displayed against a black background? Gold, you ever wonder? West 47th, there's a lot of diamond jewelry. It's always displayed against a black background. Why? Contrast, we are a diamond, but we sparkle and shine when we are placed against a backdrop of blackness. What's the most blackness? Canaan. Okay? So the Torah is teaching us that even though Eretz Yisrael was inhabited by the Canaanites, which is a symbol of evil, the mitzvah of Yisrael Eretz Yisrael goes on and on. Even though the Avos lived in Canaan, that did not detract from the Kedusha of the land. Eretz Yisrael remains inherently Kodesh, even if it's inhabited by Canaanites. It doesn't take away from the Kedusha, it doesn't take away from the mitzvah.
It was the 7 nations.
Yes, but Canaan was the dominant nation. They gave their name to the other nations because they were the dominant tribe, and they were the most corrupt of all 7 tribes. And Afal Pikain, the Avos lived there because they didn't take away from the holiness of the land. We know that this Parsha always comes out Hanukkah. What's the connection? Hanukkah, what's the connection over here? Let's think Hanukkah was a civil war. We want to gloss that over. One reason there's no mitzvah to have a meal on Hanukkah, unlike Purim, because it was Jew against Jew. It was Jew against Jew. It was the Maccabees against the Hellenized Jews. Where did it have its seeds? Right here. Yosef and the brothers. Wasn't that a civil war? Yosef against the brothers. So those seeds were planted in the Parsha, and centuries later they broke out, where it was the Maccabees against fellow Jews, unfortunately a civil war. But the seeds were planted here. So Yaakov he went through so much suffering, and he wanted to live already b'shalva. How do you say that? In tranquility. Then he got attacked by the tragedy of Joseph. Rashi makes a strange comment. Tzaddikim, they want tranquility and peace in this world. Says HaKadosh Baruch Hu, no. In this world, there's a verse in Job. Adam la'amal yulad. A person was born to suffer. You hear what Job says? Menucha, tranquility and peace only comes where? In Olam Haba. Let's not be in a hurry to get there, right, Daniel? No. Got to stick around here. But we have to know this world is a world of what? Of pain and suffering. Because no pain, no gain. Spiritual growth and progress, David, can only come through what? Pain and suffering. That's the message that God is telling Yaakov Avinu. If there's no pain, there's no gain. I think it's called in English growing pains. The Vilna Gaon tells us we come down to this world to accomplish Matai. Matai, David, is an acronym. Mem, Taf, Yud. Mem stands for mitzvot. Taf stands for Torah. And Yud, Yisurim.
Wow.
That's part of the game plan, Paul. There ain't no way around it. That's what Yaakov Avinu is teaching us. Why it has to be that way, only he knows. Right? You know, why does an apple fall down and not up? He asked that question, Sir Isaac, not a joke. Sir Isaac Newton was sitting on an apple tree. This is not a joke, you can Google it. And an apple hit him on the head and he got a bump. He said, gee, why does the apple fall down? It could have what? Fall up. So it's the laws of gravity, why it has to be like that. But we have to know, in this world, no pain, no gain. And Yaakov learned this the hard way. So Yosef HaTzadik is kidnapped and sold into slavery. Please go to Bereshis 37. Bereshis 37, verse 15. His father sends him on a mission to go find out how the brothers are doing. Now, why send him? You know the brothers hate his guts. You have many servants. Why not send a servant? Send them a WhatsApp, SMS. Why send Brother Joe? Rashi said it makes no sense. If if you take a look at the verse, he sends him, verse 14. See verse 14? Go see how the brothers are doing, and he sends him Me'emek Chevron. How do English translate that, verse 14? He sends him from the valley of Hebron.
The depth.
Depth. But we know Hebron is not in a valley. Hebron is what? In a mountain. So Rashi wonders. Rashi says, Me'etza amuka. It wouldn't be normal for Yaakov to send him. When he knows the brothers hate him, send a servant. So Rashi said, Me'etza amuka. He sent him against his better what? Judgment from the deep counsel. Emek means from the deep counsel of the one who's buried in the Hebron. Who's buried in the Hebron? Avram Avinu. And God said, your kids are going to have to be what? Slaves. So how do you get the Jews down to Egypt? Not going to come voluntarily. So Joseph has to get kidnapped, sold to slavery, and then Yaakov would come down with the family. So it's all part of the plan. Yaakov should not have sent him. Now he sent him to Shechem because he figured, hoping against hope. What happened to Shechem? Shechem, where the brothers went to defend the honor of their sister. They Moshe Nefesh themselves for Dinah. So he was hoping that Shechem would ignite the brotherly love that the brothers showed for Dinah in risking their lives to save Dinah. They would bury the hatchet and what? Come together with brother Joe. But meanwhile, God had his own plan. So we see over here, whatever we do in life, we have free will, but we're playing chess with the Grand Master. When you play chess with the Grand Master, Professor, you're moving independently, but the Grand Master controls the game. So Yaakov sent him Me'emek from the deep counsel that Yosef has to wind up in Egypt because the Jewish people are born in Egypt. So it's all part of the plan, even though we act independently. But we're playing chess with the Grand Master of the universe. And then there's a strange pasuk. Paul, you see verse 15? You mind reading that? He gets lost. He should have gone home. The brothers are not there. Go home. But no. See verse 15? What does it say?
A man discovered him, and behold, he was wandering in the field. The man asked him, saying, what do you seek? And he said, my brothers do I seek.
The man asked him to repeat, what do you seek? The word lamor, Paul, is redundant. The word lamor means to repeat. The man asked him repeat. What does that mean? The man asked him, what are you looking for? What's the word lamor got to do with it? Lamor, Mindel, means to repeat. Now again, if this is just talking about Brother Joe, this wouldn't be in the Torah. It happened to Brother Joe, it's got to do with me. But it's for all of us. The Malach is speaking to Yosef HaTzadik is about to undergo terrible ordeals in life. He might lose himself. So the angel said, keep repeating, Ma tevakesh. What are you looking for? Keep your eye on the prize. What's the prize? Olam haba. We all get a lot of curveballs in life. And you might lose yourself, but keep focused. Ma tevakesh. What do I seek? What's the goal? The goal is Olam haba. So if you stay focused on the end goal, despite all the tragedies coming to a person, he will not lose himself. So the Malach is saying to Yosef and to us, Lamor, keep repeating to yourself, Ma tevakesh. What do I want out of life? Yes, there's going to be trials and tribulations. That's why we're born. But if we keep our eye on the prize, what's the prize, Mindel? Olam haba, we can make it through the hard times. Otherwise, the word lamor doesn't belong there. You getting it?
Yeah.
I'm looking for my brothers. That's what he says, no? He ain't heavy. He's my brother. I want to reconcile with them. That's what he says. I want to reconcile with them. So they sell him into slavery. And if you look at Vayeishev 37:25, Galatians 37:25. They see a caravan of Ishmaelites. And what are they carrying in their saddlebags? What are they carrying in their saddlebags, Paul? Verse 25.
Spices, balsam, and lotus.
That's Chanel number 5, Charlie and Musk. Charlie. That's what they're carrying. So Rashi says, who cares what they were carrying 3,700 years ago? Why is it interesting what they're carrying it for? So Rashi says, normally what the Ishmaelites carry in their saddlebags? Kerosene and other toxic fumes. Toxic. But this morning, Muhammad Ali got up and said, gee, instead of carrying kerosene to the market, we're going to carry Chanel. So Brother Joe shouldn't get a headache. He's going to be sold to this caravan. He shouldn't get a headache. Right? A strange Rashi, Paul, but that's what Rashi says. What is the message of... The message is that not just what a person for Panasa, but what a person sells for Panasa is also from God. Whether you're selling kerosene or Chanel, God also decides that. Not just what you do for a living, but what you sell for a living is also decided by HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Whether it's kerosene or perfume, HaKadosh Baruch Hu decides. That's one of the messages here. But of course it's much more than that. Yosef HaTzadik is being kidnapped and sold into slavery. As far as he knows, he'll never see his beloved family again, his father. Never. You think he cares about getting a headache? Billah. I think he got bigger fish to fry. What is Rashi talking about? God doesn't want him to get a headache from the kerosene.
Because he's sweet like that.
So he has him to smell perfume. So he gets a headache. His mind is on the headache, Mindel, right? He got bigger problems.
Yeah.
So what is the message? What is the message for us in the year 2019?
Right.
All pain is exactly measured. No one suffers an ounce more than God ordains. Yosef was wondering, why are they carrying Chanel? He knows what the Ishmaelim carry, kerosene. This was God winking at him. I'm with you. You have to go through this ordeal, but you don't have to suffer the additional headache of getting what? Toxic fumes. This was a sign that God is with him. This was a wink from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that all suffering is by divine design. Everybody suffers, but no one suffers an ounce more than Hashem ordains. He had to go through this trial and tribulations to wind up in Egypt, to be a slave. Rashi said it's midah keneged midah. He accused the Bnei Ruvain, the Bnei Leah, of calling what? The other sons slaves, which wasn't true, so he had to wind up as a slave. Midah keneged midah, but he didn't deserve the additional anguish of getting a headache from what? From toxic fumes. So the message is, Avi, everybody suffers in life, but it's divine design, and no one suffers an ounce more than God ordained. This was a wink from Hashem, that I'm with you. Imo anochi b'tzarat. Psalm 91 says that God is with us in all of our suffering, and the suffering is exactly measured out. Yes?
So I want to know, did Yosef ever engage in any personal introspection or say to the brothers, was there a commentary says, you know, I could see a little bit about what you're talking about as a form of, getting back together?
Well, the problem was that he spoke slander against them. He acted like the boss, even though he was the kid brother. He lorded it over them, and he slandered them with false accusations. He accused them, Rashi tells us, that the Bnei Leah called the Bnei Bilhah slaves, which wasn't true. So what happened? Boomerang. So he became what?
A slave.
He accused the brothers of sexual immorality, which wasn't true. So what happened, Golda? He was accused of sexual immorality. Right? But he didn't. deserve this extra suffering of getting a headache from toxic fumes. There's an amazing message here in life, how God suffers with us, and he feels our pain, and he's the one that what? Causes it, but it's all figured out. It's all figured out exactly. Right? That's pretty amazing.
For our good.
For our good. Tikkunim, Yosef grew from this experience, and the brothers did reconcile. The brothers did reconcile. They had to go through this hard time, and they grew from it. They grew from it. So Yosef gets sold down to slavery, right? He gets sold to slavery, and the Torah interrupts the story of Yosef going down to Mitzrayim with the strange story of Yehuda and Tamar. Very strange story with Yehuda and Tamar. That's in Vayeishev 38. See Vayeishev 38, verse 15. Yehuda sees this lady of the night. What? And what? He thought she's a lady of the night, right? Genesis 38:15. Paul, how do they translate that?
When Judah saw her, he thought her to be a harlot, since she had covered her face.
So does a son of Yaakov go to a harlot? But let's keep in mind, the Torah wasn't given yet. Keep the 7, go to heaven. So just like someone
Are you saying he wasn't Jewish?
Well, of course he wasn't Jewish. Well,
Well, tell the Torah.
how could Yaakov marry 2 sisters? Marrying the 2 sisters, the Torah, it wasn't forbidden. Keep the 7, go to heaven. So they only had the 7 Noachide laws plus Bris Milah that they had to keep. And therefore, Maimonides explains that Yehuda didn't do anything wrong. The Torah was not given yet.
He was B'nai Noah.
B'nai Noach, keep the 7, go to heaven. But why did God have to orchestrate it this way, Paul? Isn't it strange that Yehuda gets seduced by Tamar, and this gives birth to Peretz, and Peretz happens to be what? The ancestor of whom, Professor? David HaMelech. Couldn't God figure out another way to have David HaMelech's ancestor come into the world? Very strange, no? Tamar and Yehuda, Peretz, the grandfather of King David. Very strange. Very strange. God tells Isaiah, my ways are not your ways, and my thoughts are not your thoughts. Right? God said, you can't figure out my game plan. Why I do it this way. Because if you can figure it out, you would be God, you see? So to us it seems very bizarre, Paul, to say the least. This is King David's great-grandfather through an act of incest, having sex with Tamar was his daughter-in-law. In Jewish law, having relations with your daughter-in-law, even when your son is dead, is an act of incest. But the Torah wasn't given yet. Okay, she was his daughter-in-law. Torah wasn't given yet. But the message is that we cannot figure out God's game plan. He doesn't operate by the way we would. Okay? Strange. So what happens? She's pregnant with twins. Then the Torah tells us a strange story over here. Right? She's pregnant with twins, and what happens? Verse 27. What happens in verse 27? She has twins, right? Verse 28. What happened? Oh, verse 27, Paul. You see that? Want to read that?
And it came to pass at the time she gave birth, and behold, there were twins in her womb.
Go ahead.
It happened that as she gave birth, one put out a hand. The midwife took the crimson thread and tied it to his hand, saying, this one emerged first.
That's the Reuter Bendel. You know what a Reuter Bendel is? Where does the Reuter Bendel come from that they sell you at the hotel?
No.
Yes. Don't say no. It is. This is the source, Mendel, for the Reuter. How do you say Reuter Bendel in Yiddish? I mean in English.
I thought
This is the source. You didn't know that,
I
Professor?
thought it was against the Yetzirah.
No. This is the source.
So now-
No, you see, good thing you came today. The midwife tied a red bendel on the hand saying that this guy came out first. Why is it important, Daniel, who came out first? Because the firstborn gets a double piece of the pie. Pi Shnayim. He gets a double portion of the father's inheritance, right? So you have to know, in Pidyon Aben, right? The firstborn. So therefore, the midwife put the Reuter bendel. But what happened? Very strange, Paul. In 29, what happened?
And it was, as he drew back his hand, that behold, his brother emerged. And she said, with what strength you asserted yourself. And he called his name Peretz.
Go ahead.
Afterwards, his brother, on whose hand was a crimson thread, came out, and he called his name Zerach.
Thank you very much. This happened 3,700 years ago. What is the message for us today? Torah's GPS, God's personal system. So the other brother, he like elbowed the other guy, and he pushed his way out, and he's called Peretz. What does Peretz mean? Break on through to the other side. What? That's what it means. Who Mashiach comes from whom, David? Peretz. Because the Mashiach is going to have to elbow people aside. Gold, are you getting this? Mashiach is going to have to break on through. He needs that chutzpah to elbow people aside, step aside. So he's called Peretz. And the other brother is called what? Shiny. Shiny, time for lunch. Zerach means shiny. So because he had a Reuter shiny bendel, that's why you call him shiny. Chava, come on. But what is the message? You're sitting down, Bila. This Zerach could have been bitter all of his life. He could have grown up with a complex. Hey, I stuck out my hand first. I should be the Bechor. I should get a double piece of Papa's pie. But my brother elbowed me and he's the Bechor. What's the message? Get a life. Don't brood. We all shine on. So you're not the Bechor. You can still shine in your life. Even though your brother elbowed you, you're not the firstborn. Get a life. Daniel. Get a life and shine on your own, even though you're not the firstborn. It's not the end of the world, Chanoch. Shine. Don't sulk. Shine on your own way, even though you're not the firstborn. You could have been, but it didn't happen. How do you say, oichet gut? Also okay. Shine anyway. Don't sulk and don't brood. Isn't that an amazing idea?
Yeah, be happy with your life.
Amazing idea, right? Be happy with your station in life, and we all shine on. How do you get that in? Now, strange pasuk. Verse 26. Do you mind reading that, Paul, slowly? Verse 26.
Not the same.
Well, but Bereshit 38, verse 26.
Judah recognized, and he said, "She is right, it is from me, inasmuch as I did not give her to Shelah, my son, and he was not intimate with her anymore."
He was not intimate with her no more. Anymore, right? That's what the text says, right? Rashi says, if you look in Bereshit Rabbah, it doesn't mean he was not intimate with her no more. He never stopped being intimate with her. Now, Professor, I'm really mixed up. One rabbi says he was no longer intimate with her, and the other rabbi said he never stopped being intimate with her. And why should I care, Billah? This happened 3,700 years ago. Was he intimate with her later? Was he not? Why should I care? And how could two rabbis disagree? We know Elu v'Elu divrei Elohim chayim. Remember, Chanoch?
Could he not marry her?
1 second, Ervin, page 13. Shammai said this, Hillel said that. What did God say? Elu v'Elu divrei Elohim chayim. When two sages disagree, they're both right. But Yehuda, how could they both be right over here? They're saying the opposite.
It couldn't be right to both be right.
One said that he was no longer intimate with her, and the other guy says he never stopped being intimate with her. And why should I care, Paul? You get a question on the table? You're sitting down. This is a message, my Rebbe Rapam said, it's speaking to us, otherwise it wouldn't be here. In every marriage, sometimes after a fight, you feel you no longer want to be with each other. And then when you kiss and make up, you can't get enough of each other. In every marriage, it's like that. On Monday, you can't stand each other. And then Wednesday night, it's lovey-dovey again. In every marriage, it's like that.
That's not that good.
That's what he said. That's what he said. Sometimes you can't stand each other, and sometimes you cannot get enough of each other. So then we have the story of Joseph. Joseph is what? Trying to be seduced by Mrs. Potiphar, right? Right? Mrs. Potiphar. If you look at Vayeishev 39, verse 12. And here's to you, Mrs. Robinson. Vayeishev 39:12. You see that, Paul? See that? Want to read that? 12.
That she caught hold of him by his garment, saying, "Lie with me." But he left his garment in her hand, and he fled and went outside.
He fled and he went outside. Look at verse 13. There seems to be a redundancy there, Paul.
Read it.
Yeah, 13.
When she saw that he had left his garment in her hand and fled outside.
But you, 1 minute, but you just told me in verse 12 that he fled and he what? Went outside. What do you have to repeat in verse 13? Vayonas achutza. And who cares? This happened 3,700 years ago, Chava. Hear my question? Look at the redundancy in verse 12 and 13. Vayonas vayetza achutza. He fled and he went outside. Vayonas achutza. He fled and he went outside. Where do you see that word Vayonas again? In the Hallel. Hayam ra Vayonas. That word Vayonas is found in the Hallel. The Red Sea saw and it fled. What did the Red Sea see that it fled? Says the Midrash, it saw the coffin of brother Joe. Very bizarre, cryptic Midrash, Paul. And when Hallel, King David, we say, Hayom Ra Vayonos, the Red Sea saw it fled. What did it see? It saw the coffin of Joseph.
Wow.
So what? What's Vayonos? Joseph split. Hey, let's split, Chava. He went against his nature. This beautiful woman is trying to seduce him day in and day out. Every day she puts on another miniskirt. And he's a handsome 18-year-old guy. So he split. He went against his nature. So centuries later, when the Red Sea saw Joseph's coffin, it went against its nature, and it also what? Split. Let's split. So the word Vayonos is written twice to connect it to the Hayom Ra Vayonos. Centuries later, the Red Sea also split when it saw the coffin of Yosef HaTzadik. To make that emphasis. Hayom Ra Vayonos, right? Yosef went against his teva, so the Yamsuf went against its teva and also split. Mida keneged mida. Mida keneged mida. 4 words that saved the world. If you just came to hear this, what one word of a person can change not just his own destiny, but the destiny of what? Of the world. Please bear with me. Yosef is in the dungeon. The butler and the baker have strange dreams, right? Strange. Yosef got his own problems, right? He's also in the dungeon for attempted rape, framed, right? So look what the Torah says in Genesis 40, Vayeishev 40, verse 6. Pooh, you don't have a book. It's important to look inside. Anybody? Vayeishev 40, verse 6. Bakasha. Yosef comes to them. He sees that they're depressed. They have a long face.
They were aggrieved.
They have a long face. So Joseph asked them, why the long face? That's what he asked them. In verse 6. No? Why the... Listen, Brother Joe, mind your own business. You got your own tsaris. Been accused of rape, you're rotting in the dungeon. Mind your own business. Oh, these guys have a long face. What's it to you, Brother Joe?
Is he sweet?
What's it to you? And why tell me about it? Bill, for the year 2019, what's the message? Huh? So they tell him the dream, right? They tell him the dream, and Joseph interprets the dream. And the rest, Paul, as they say, is what?
History.
4 words that changed world history. Please hear me well. If Joseph didn't care, he got his own tsaris, he would rot in jail. Think, right? His father and his brothers would have died in a famine, with the entire Middle East, would starve in the coming famine. But because he was concerned with others, he said, why are you so upset? Tell me about it. Perhaps if you get it off your chest, you'll feel better. David, 4 words that changed world history. Madua panechem roim hayom. Paul, you see that? In verse 7. Why the long face? Why the long face? Mendel, think of it. Another guy would say, well, what do I care? These pagans, I got bigger tsaris than them. But he was concerned. Maybe I can help. You know, if you talk out your problems, you know, you feel better, a sympathetic ear. And because he was interested and concerned to cheer up others and give simcha to others, this got the ball rolling, David. And what happened? He wound up as the viceroy of Egypt, thereby saving not just Egypt from starvation, but what? His family. 4 words that changed world history. Roger, Rabbi Yosef, Yosef, what a message. You see someone's having a bad hair day, give him a shmeichel, a nice word. You know, some people are constipated, they can't smile. You can change a guy's whole life and maybe your own as well. What a message. Says the Vilna Gaon, the tafkid of all the mitzvahs of the Torah. Paul, what's the tafkid of all the mitzvahs of the Torah? To give simcha to another person. The Vilna Gaon said this, the purpose of all the mitzvot is to give a little simcha and a little sunshine to what? Another person. The Vilna Gaon said that. You are my sunshine, my only sunshine. You are. So that's what Yosef HaTzadik was what? Was teaching us. That's what Yosef HaTzadik was teaching us, right? You don't mind your own business. You see someone sad, give him a nice hello. Give God, right? Doesn't cost. There should be a gemach for smiles. It doesn't cost any money to smile, right? A gemach for smiles. Professor, you agree with me? It's free. Huh? Isn't that amazing? Yaakov Avinu gives his son on his deathbed, Yehuda, he says, "U'ben shenayim mechalav." Yaakov on his deathbed, he's blessing his sons. He tells Yehuda, the ancestor of whom? Mashiach. He says, "U'ben shenayim mechalav." If you look at Art Scroll, you go with me there. Let's see. If you just came to hear this all the way from England, now hear this. Now hear this. Let's go there. Let's go to Parshas Vayechi. Good thing we have the good book, okay. Right? Can't tell you the page, but I can tell you the verse. Okay? The verse is Bereshis 49:12. Bereshis 49:12. Yaakov is on his deathbed. He's blessing the ancestor of Mashiach. Look at the blessing that he gives. The professor, you don't have a book?
279.
Anybody? Verse 12, Paul.
Page 279.
Red-eyed from wine.
Red-eyed from wine.
White-toothed from milk.
And white-toothed from milk. This is what he has to say on his deathbed to Yehuda. What is a toothpaste commercial? For Colgate. You have Colgate in England? Colgate? What? Art Scroll. Can you read that again slowly? I don't believe this. Red-eyed from wine. Red-eyed from wine. That Yehuda should be what? An alcoholic. And teeth what?
White-toothed from teeth.
If you drink a lot of milk, you get white teeth. Is that true? Avi, is it a commercial for dentists? No. That's not what it says. Now hear this. It says, eyes more sparkling than wine. Eyes that sparkle more than wine. Uleben shinayim mechalav. When you give someone a toothy smile, it's better than buying him a milkshake. That's what it says, according to Ksubas, page 110. So you can't study Chumash without the Talmud. When you see somebody, your eyes should sparkle when you see him. And when you smile at him, it's better than buying him a milkshake. I love milkshakes, but when someone gives me, milkshake is finished in 2 minutes, right? Or 3 minutes. But when someone gives me a smile, that stays with me more than 3 minutes. Stays with me all day, maybe all week.
That's good.
Are you getting this? Ksubas, page 110. It's a shame they translated it this way, because what is it? He should be an alcoholic? Chas v'sholem.
But doesn't it?
And what's it got to do with Mashiach? Speaking to Yehuda. If you want the Mashiach to come, said my Rebbe Rapam on this, then greet every Jew with a shmeichel, with sparkling eyes. That's the way to bring the Mashiach.
That's good.
Not with a frown. That's what will bring the Mashiach. Isn't that amazing? It doesn't cost any money. Uleben shinayim, a toothy smile is better than buying somebody a milkshake. I love milkshakes. Too bad Carvel went out of business. They used to be in King George, next to the bank. Why did they go out of business, Bill? I love those milkshakes. When someone gave me a smile, I felt better than the milkshake. That's what the Torah is teaching. And Yosef HaTzadik was teaching that. Your guy is sad, depressed, give him a smile, a kind word. And you're not going to change only your life and his life, but perhaps the life of what? World destiny. The 4 words that changed the world. Madua penechim roim hayom. Why the long face? And this got the story going. Right? Pretty interesting. Now, what's the connection to Hanukkah over here? We said civil war, brother against brother, right? What's the message over here for Hanukkah? Interesting message in Hanukkah over here. It says they threw Joseph in a pit. Back in Bereshis 37:24. Bereshis 37:24. They picked him up and they threw him in a pit. And it says the pit was empty and there was no water in there.
Family can be the worst.
Genesis 37:24. Anybody?
They took him and cast him into the pit, and the pit was empty, no water was in it.
Well, if the pit was empty, obviously what? And why tell me about the year 2019? This happened 37 years ago.
It's a different book.
So Rashi says,
It's okay.
the pit was empty, there was no water. There was no water there, but there was creepy crawlers there. Water there wasn't, but there was scorpions and snakes. So, okay, what's the message, Professor, for the year 2019 with Hanukkah? But whatever the Torah tells me is not history. It's all GPS, said by great Rebbe Rapam Zatzal. Hanukkah, it comes from the word chinuch, education. Many Jews in those days and today were completely ignorant of Judaism. So Hellenism took control. Today Hellenism is called what? Western civilization. What's it called? Humanism, secularism, Hellenism, leftism,
Humanism.
Habor Reik. He says, Habor Reik, if the skull is empty, if it's not full of Torah values, what's it going to be filled with? Nechoshim Yakravim, Hellenism, secularism, schmutz on the internet. The message of Hanukkah from the word chinuch, the bore should not be raked. The skull has to be filled with Torah values. And Hanukkah chinuch, Torah education. Otherwise, nature abhors a vacuum. If that's true in the physical world, Chava, certainly true in the physical, in the spiritual world. Nature abhors a vacuum. If there is no Torah values in the skull, there's no chinuch of Hanukkah, Torah education, then Hellenism, or lefticism, or humanism. These creepy crawlers will infest the head. And so many Jews today are infested with creepy crawlers in their head. Totally anti-Israel. Totally brainwashed. Jews for Palestine. Jewish voices for peace. Because the skull is empty. There is no Torah education. There's no Hanukkah chinuch. So what's going to fester in there, Avi? Self-hatred. Hellenism. Humanism. Secularism. And that's why this parsha is always read when? When? Hanukkah time. Isn't that an amazing connection between the parsha and Hanukkah? And Hanukkah. If you look at the Haftorah, the book of Amos, the book of Amos, the brothers sold Joseph, and what did they do with the money? Look at Amos. It's in the back of the book. It's Haftorah of Vayeishev.
1142.
Thank you. 1142. Amos chapter 2, verse 6. You want to read that and see how it connects to the parsha?
So said Hashem, for 3 rebellious sins of Israel, and should I not exact retribution for the 4th, for their having sold a righteous man for silver, and a desolate one for the sake of a pair of shoes?
They sold the tzaddik. Who's the tzaddik?
Joseph.
They sold Yosef HaTzadik for money, and with the money, what did they buy, Paul? Pair of shoes.
Well, might have been a good pair of shoes.
Pirkei de Eliezer says, when did the sale take place? On the day that's going to be Yom Kippur. And therefore, the Pirkei de Eliezer said, one reason we take off our shoes on Yom Kippur. We are the descendants of those brothers. They are us, same DNA. So they sold Brother Joe on the day it's going to be Yom Kippur. And they bought shoes, so therefore we take off our shoes on Yom Kippur as a tikkun. As a tikkun.
Did they not know that it was Yom Kippur?
The Torah wasn't given yet.
But they were still following some things.
That day is going to be Yom Kippur, right? The Torah wasn't given yet. So they only had to keep the 7. Kidnapping's against the Noahide religion too. Kidnapping is one of the 7 Noahide laws. It's against the Jewish religion as well. And therefore the Zohar tells us that these brothers were not punished, but centuries later they got reincarnated as the 10 martyrs. The 10 martyrs the Roman government executed, because kidnapping is against the Noahide religion, it's a capital crime. So centuries later they became reincarnated as the 10 martyrs of Israel, the 10 souls here, and therefore they what? God has a long memory. You can pay me now, or you can pay me later. You see, next week's Parsha, it's amazing. Next week's Parsha won't be next Thursday, but I'll tell you something amazing. 10 times they're called the men. They come down to Mitzrayim. Over and over again, if you see this, next week's Parsha, they go down, the brothers of Joseph go down to buy food. So the Torah should call them the brothers of Joseph. The Torah should call them what? Sons of Jacob. Please take a look at Bereshis 43. Bereshis 43. This is just incredible. Paul, you got to see this. Otherwise you think I'm hallucinating. Bereshis 43. Look at Pasuk 15. Bereshis 43:15, David. It's important. Anybody? These are the brothers, or the sons of Jacob. What does the Torah call them? Bereshis 43:15. The men took. Look at verse 16.
Men, bring the men into the house.
The men. The verse 16, how many times you got the word men there in verse 16? The verse 15, you have the word men once, right? Verse 16, how many times you have the word men? Huh?
2.
Look at verse 17. Again, men. Look at verse 18. Men. Huh? You're not finished yet. Look at verse 24. Look at verse 24. Look at verse 24.
Then the man
A men. You're not finished. Look at chapter 46. Chapter 46, Pasuk 1. What do you have there, Elisheva?
46.
Men. 46:3. What do you have there? 46:3, Paul.
Men.
Men. Verse 4. 10 times. It's written 10 times. It's written men, men. I get the picture. I know they weren't women. And why not call them the brothers of Joseph or the sons of Jacob? 10 times the Torah keeps repeating herself. Mindel. Men, men, men. With the extra hey. We know the hey. You know Hebrew, Paul. Hey ayidiyah. It's the 10 special men. The extra hey. Says Rabbeinu Bechai, quoting the Zohar. These are the 10 martyrs. They're going to be the 10 martyrs. Therefore, they're called men. They will be reincarnated. The 10 brothers of Joseph and the 10 great men of Israel. And they will pay the price with the extra hey ayidiyah. How do you say hey ayidiyah in English? That's special. So what's the message over here? It ain't over till it's over. No one gets away, Pacific. No one gets away with anything. They committed a capital crime. They weren't punished. But God says, you can pay me now, or no one gets away with anything.
No free lunch.
No free lunch. Ha'anoshim. The men, these specific men, not brothers, which they should be called brothers of Joseph. They should be called the sons of Jacob, not once. 10 times. So we see that everyone gets what's coming to them.
Yep.
Right? And you can't get away from it. You can't get away from it.
For more of Rabbi Sprecher's teachings, visit RabbiSprecher.com.